there. Thank you so much for popping in today. Welcome to the first ever episode of the OUA basketball show. My name's Griffin Porter. If you don't know me, I am a journalist who has been covering OUA basketball for a few years now. And if you don't know this show, which you might not because it's our first episode, this is our new OUA basketball show. We're going to be taking you guys deep into the game a couple times a week, usually once before the weekend's games, once after the weekend's games. We're going to be talking everything OUA basketball. We're going to have a lot of great guests on throughout the year, but I know that you're noticing this guy over to the other side here. No further ado, for the first episode, I had to break out the big gun. Trung Ho, the founder of In the Fourth U. If you know U Sports basketball, especially OUA, you know Trung and his amazing page. And if you don't, you better find out. Trung, thank you so much for being on the first ever episode of the OUA basketball show.
Cool. Thanks very mumuch, man. It's an honor.
Yeah. Oh, this one's going to be in the archives. They're going to look back on this one in the history books one day. Trung, so if there are some people who somehow love OUA basketball but don't know about your page, why don't you tell them a bit about where to find you, what they can expect?
Yep. So we're predominantly on Instagram and YouTube. You can find us. Our handle is in the fourth _U. So INTHEFOURTH_U. What we do is we cover OUA basketball. We cover the entire league as well. We come out to a lot of the games. We film the games. We produce highlights, social media content. A lot of it is live. A lot of it is later on in the week. But yeah, it's a really great basketball community of, I think, a lot of players across the league, coaches, families, friends of the players, and a lot of people who are just basketball fans in general. It's a great place to tune in for university basketball in Canada for sure.
Definitely a one-stop shop. I don't know how you guys get to as many games as you do and get as many great highlights, video edits, mixtapes, all sorts of interviews, everything that you guys need for any university basketball coast to coast in the fourth U. That is your one-stop shop. But Trung, it's the most exciting time of the year. OUA basketball is kicking off this week. Our first game of the year is going to be Western against Windsor. I believe that's happening on Tuesday. And so I thought we would get together and we would talk some preview talk. I wanted you to come up with some intriguing teams. Like, we're not necessarily talking about the best teams here today, but like some teams that you're really looking forward to watch. So Trung, in terms of our most intriguing teams, I'm going to keep it local for me. I'm based here in Toronto right now, so I'm going to look at the defending national champions, the TMU Bold, the women's team playing under the new name. Love it. They're the defending champs. Of course, there's a ton of talent on that roster, but at the same time, they've lost a lot of key pieces from last year's team. Michaela Dodig, Gemma Bin Edwards, Maren Scotton, Kia Giles. Like, those were big parts of that championship, and there's a lot of talent on that roster. And of course, they have Coach Carly Clark, one of the best in the entire country, but I'm really intrigued to see how she's going to try and fill those holes that are in her roster and see what she can do with this next wave of players ready to step up.
So, like you said, TMU, they have a lot of missing pieces from last year's championship team. But I think, like you said, Carly Clark is one of the best coaches in Canada. The team, I think, even though they had a tough preseason, they just need a little bit of time to gel together. They had a lot of key role players who are playing bigger roles this year, like Tia Messier, Callie Hall, obviously Rachel Farwell is back. So yeah, like I said, a little bit of a rough preseason, but give it time, and I think they'll be a contender for one of the top spots in the OUA this season for sure.
Yeah, I'd certainly be surprised if they don't find themselves fighting for trophies once again. All right, Trung, we'll throw it to you. What are one of your teams that you're looking forward to watching this year?
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch the Ottawa GGs this year. I do believe they have possibly the best 1-2 punch in the front court with Bridget Lefefa Okonkwo and Oksana Gucci-Provencher. Those two players are they're offensive powerhouses. They're essentially pro players as they played pro this past summer in, I believe it was the NBL Division Two League in Australia. And yeah, they have like an exciting young core as well, and also another great coach. And so I think Ottawa, along with TMU, they'll be contending for the top spots in the OUA.
Yeah, certainly a ton of talent on that GG's team. That seems like a perfect segue because I had the Ottawa men's team as one of my most intriguing teams that I'm looking forward to watching this year. They went 13-3 last season, even though they only had one guy in the top 35 in scoring, and that was Guillaume Pepin. And he's back, of course, but they play really good team basketball. It's like facing them is like death by a thousand cuts. There's no one guy who singularly destroys you. And I'm just really curious to see if they can keep that up for another year.
Yeah, and you know what? Ottawa is your pick. Ottawa is also my pick again.
Oh, you kept it.
You got both GGs. You know what? And you know what I'm going to say? They might even be the team to beat in the entire league this year. They have a really strong roster. They have a group of veterans who are like top level talent. Guys like you mentioned, Guillaume Pepin, Josh Nkamza playing in the middle, who was a D1 transfer last year. You have Kevin Otu coming from Humber, who won the championship last year. So and they also had a great preseason playing against NCAA teams. Lost by only 2 to Oregon. So yeah, they look fantastic, and I do believe they are possibly the team to beat, and not just the OUA but U Sports.
Wow, that's a big claim there. That'll be the one we'll put on all the headlines. I thought you were going to make it more personal and say they're the team to beat in the city of Ottawa, which I guess is true, but that can bring us to our next team that I'm looking forward to watch. My alma mater, the Carleton Raven men, are another squad that I'm fascinated by because it's a bit of a who are you people type of vibe with the Carleton Ravens. I covered that team when I was a student there just one full season ago, and of course we had the canceled season as well, but ever since that, in just one full season, there's only 3 or 4 guys that I know left. And I mean, I think that Grant Shepard's going to have a great year for them. Aiden Warnholtz, I think, is poised to become a real superstar. But I mean, we say it with Carleton all the time. How could they sustain the loss of these guys and then they find more guys? Like, I know that there are guys on this roster that Coach Charles and his squad are very excited about. But for right now, we don't know too many of them, and I'm really looking forward to seeing who's going to step up and sort of establish themselves, because they lost like their top 3 scorers from last year in Alain Louis, Lloyd Pandy, and Binyam Gubrikadan, all gone. So a lot of holes to be filled, but if there's any school that can fill them, I think it's proven to be the Carleton Ravens.
Yeah, absolutely. They've lost a lot of players, but like you said, guys like Aiden Warnholtz, Grant Shepard, Connor Vreeken, those guys are stepping into veteran roles this year. They've looked really good in preseason. And again, they, like TMU, they've had a bit of a rough summer. They went 0-4 against NCAA teams, kind of got blown out in a few of them. But at the end of the day, I think that the new talent that they've brought in, they look really good.
So there you have it. Lots to talk about in Ottawa this season. Trung, both of us picking both Ottawa schools as our 2 men's teams that we're going to keep an eye on. I had an honorable mention to Windsor. I think that they're going to be a fun team to watch this year. But for my last pick, I had to go with the Queens Gales on the women's side. They had that fantastic run through the Final 8 last year on the back of that great home court, but how much of it was that great crowd advantage? Obviously, Sophie DeGoody is going to be a massive hole for them to fill, but they've got a ton of talent there, and it's sort of similar to TMU. I think people are ready to step up.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a few key veteran players who have looked very good in preseason so far. and a lot of good young players stepping into key roles as well. But for my last interesting team to pick would definitely be McMaster women's team. Sarah Gates is returning. She is, I believe, will be a candidate for Player of the Year award, both OUA and perhaps even U Sports. McMaster, they've been looking pretty good so far. They beat UBC in Saskatchewan this past weekend at the Darcel Wright Memorial Classic at TMU. Sarah Gates dropped 30 plus points in 2 of those games. They're definitely another intriguing team for me.
Yeah, I had them as my honorable mention on the women's side just because I want front row seats to the Sarah Gates show. Like all year, with all due respect, there's a lot of good players on that team, but I think they would also tell you that she is something to behold. That's going to do it for our first ever episode of the OUA Basketball Show. There's going to be OUA Basketball on almost every night this week. We got a game Tuesday night. There's a couple of games Thursday night, and then, of course, we get into our proper Friday and Saturday schedule. So make sure to check it out all week on OUA.tv. Make sure, if you are an OUA basketball fan, make sure to follow in the fourth _U on Instagram. Trung Ho, thanks so much for being here, and enjoy the basketball.
Cool. Thanks so much, Griffin, for having me.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back next week with a recap of all the games that we had. Until that time, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.